You could accept the fact that this city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion.
What do you mean, biblical?
What he means is Old Testament, Mr.
Yes.
Mayor. Real wrath of God type stuff.
Exactly.
Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Get ready for 2 hours of hard-hitting football talk. Straight from their jocks about the jocks. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
Welcome, everybody, once again to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, and alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Know-It-Alls? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know Show. We are ready to go. We're talking AFC North right now.
AFC North, biggest questions we're getting this that time of the year, Joe. We just
Yeah,
did
it is.
the NFC
Getting
North.
there.
A lot of
Getting
questions there. Let me tell you, when we talk about Aaron Rodgers, talk about Matt Nagy and the Bears.
Yeah.
A lot of questions going on there.
Yeah.
The Lions, what the hell's going on there? But I'm excited and ready to
Yeah.
go. I
We're
got
getting-
my Reggie Miller jersey.
See that?
I'm feeling it. We're ready. Let's get it going.
NBA Finals going on. and
NBA
everything right
Finals.
now.
Yeah, so I got to keep it real with some.
But you and me
Reggie
both
Miller.
haven't even watched a single game.
I
this
haven't
year.
watched it at all, and even probably since Reggie Miller was there, and I still love what he did to the Knicks all the time. So I'll love Reggie Miller. It's got a place in my
if
heart.
you're just tuning in, thank you guys so much for joining us. If you're new to the show or want to become a member, become a football know-it-all here, go ahead over to YouTube. Follow us, Football on the Know Show. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell for our latest and greatest updated content.
that's right.
As well as we're also on Facebook, Football on the Know with Jim and Joe. That's our page. Become a member through Facebook. Check us out there. And we're also on Twitter at FB_know.
It is pointless to resist.
That's right.
My son.
All right, so Joe, let's get right into it. I mean, AFC North, biggest questions. Would start right
go
off
with the Ravens.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's
do
start
it.
right off with the Baltimore Ravens. And my biggest question here for the Ravens now,
Right.
with the additions to the wide receivers now,
Mm-hmm.
will there be more balanced offense here? Will they air it out more as opposed to being like a run-first type of team?
Right. And that's the thing, too, is it begs the question. And it's great that you just answer or ask that because what did they do in this offseason? I mean, that was their absolute biggest weakness is they just didn't have anybody to throw to other than, Mark Andrews and at tight end and Hollywood Brown at wide receiver. Other than that, now you look at this team now, they brought in Marquise Brown, that's Hollywood Brown, but they brought in Sammy Watkins. They brought in Miles Boykin, who's been there on the roster. But they also drafted a kid by the name of Rashad Bateman, who, if you don't follow the draft that closely, Rashad Bateman's a kind of like a under-the-radar prospect here. Did get picked in the later part of the first round, but I thought he could easily move up the boards, through the draft, and just didn't. But very underrated player. If he comes into his own relatively quickly and learns this offense, he can make a big, huge impact. Beyond that, if you think about 2 drafts ago, they also drafted a kid by the name of Devin Duvernay coming out of Texas, a speedster, who just kind of like Hollywood Brown, but a guy who's, flat out can run. And make big plays down the field. So they've managed to now bring in guys like Hollywood Brown, Devin Duvernay, and Rashad Bateman. Now they have the youth there. Now they just got to fully develop them from this point going forward. Sammy Watkins is a nice veteran that they bring in to help nurture them and help them grow a little faster. But yeah, I mean, you look at this offense now. Now you can't say, oh well, we run heavy offense and we kind of shy away from the pass because we don't have those weapons. Now you have them there. It's how good can they become at this stage because they're so young still at that position. Can they grow relatively fast before we get to week 1 and kind of develop that chemistry at Lamar Jackson to become to have this offense evolve even more? You know what I mean? We've only had a short amount of time with Lamar Jackson running this offense and how tricky it is when they're doing this run option type of offense that they do. It's hard to find out where the ball's going. Lamar could have it. J.K. Dobbins could have it. Mark Andrews could have it. Hollywood Brown could have it and just be running the ball over the place. But now that they've added more weaponry in the receiving core, you got to make this offense more balanced. Make this offense become more revolutionary. Get bigger plays done. Now you can do so many different things. There's nothing holding them back at this point. So with this new receiving core, I mean, you would hope, if you're a Baltimore Ravens fan, watching this team with the additions that they made there, you would hope that this offense would become more balanced and more, unpredictable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. You bring it up. Last year, they ranked 32nd in passing attempts and yards altogether here. One thing I did notice here from 2019 to 2020 here, they went away from the play-action pass last year a lot. Mm-hmm. They changed it up from going so not only did they have the RPOs, but in 2019, 163 attempts here for play action. Last year, all the way down to 87 attempts. Ooh. Cut it right in half.
Wow.
And that's where I think where it became a problem. So then players, the teams weren't biting into it. They're like, you're running all the time. We're not going in on that play action. So I think they avoided going into that.
Right.
Now maybe with the added weapons here that they do have, again, like you said, Sammy Watkins has been a nice player for many teams here throughout the years. And to go out and get a Rashad Bateman here on the draft, it only works out and helps out for their guy here, Lamar Jackson, who is now on a year for his contract year now. He's got to perform this year too. I mean, we already know he's going to get the deal, but he needs to stay healthy and even be able to perform on both sides of the ball here, because that's the one knock that some people have had. If you look at his stats here altogether on the passing game, and I've seen him be pretty accurate altogether as well. As when you look at it, his accuracy is still 64% completion percentage, and he's got a rate of 102.6, so he's still getting it done there. It's just they don't see it enough, I think, for him, and that's always been kind of that chip on people's shoulders when they look at Lamar Jackson, noticing what he would do back in college and stuff, and then see him kind of take off and run. But I saw a little bit of it last year to where he rolled out, and we saw it in one of those highlights there where we showed where he would roll out and get people to come up and then dish it off and then make it to the wide open receiver there.
Yeah.
And you saw it in that big game against the Cleveland Browns right there to get it done as well.
Yeah, you utilize your strengths. So everybody is worried about Lamar Jackson. When he has the ball in his hands, you don't know what he's going to do. And when he threatens that line of scrimmage, when he threatens that he might run, it's hard pressed. You have to come up because you're worried about him taking off down the football field with his legs. And that's what he's smart that way. He utilizes his legs and get people to come up and commit, and then he has a wide open receiver. So, I mean, he's a smart quarterback. And listen, he's come a long way from college. When he was in college, he struggled with the deep ball. He struggled with accuracy, with his footwork, and being able to throw and make smart decisions. And you're seeing the evolution of this quarterback that when he came in was kind of not necessarily raw, but he had some work that needed to be done before he could be called a legitimate quarterback in this league and prove himself. And he's done just that. I mean, I'm actually really surprised on how good he's become as a quarterback, as a professional, and as a player in this league. One of the most dynamite quarterbacks in this league right now, hard to predict, a guy that can run and has moves like him at the quarterback position. Not to mention his throwing mechanics have come a tremendous long way. Footwork, all of that, and it shows on the football field, and that's why he's such a hard quarterback to contend against.
Yeah, absolutely. So what else we have here for questions here for the Baltimore Ravens?
Next up for the Ravens, here's an interesting one. Now we know, they traded Rolando Brown. He's gone from the Ravens at right tackle. What are they going to do this offseason? Now that they moved on from their young Pro Bowl right tackle, they brought in another tackle, but he usually plays left tackle, played for the Steelers, Alejandro Villanueva. Can Alejandro make the transition to right tackle now for the Baltimore Ravens? Because they already have Ronnie Stanley at left tackle, and we all know he's not going nowhere. He's a Pro Bowl left tackle for them, not going nowhere. So they bring in Alejandro Villanueva for the right tackle position, which is interesting because his whole career he's been left. And I don't care what anybody says. If you've played your whole career and you've been a left tackle, now all of a sudden you got to make that huge and hard transition to right tackle. It's like eating with a fork on your left hand. Like you've always done it with your left hand for the longest time. Now, guess what? You got an injury. Now you got to use your right hand. It's so awkward. It's so uncomfortable to the point where everything is new. Everything is hard to do. So think about that when you're thinking about tackles. It's the same thing. You're asking a guy to completely change his stance at the line of scrimmage, to completely change how he does his steps, how he blocks, everything. So this is going to be a big-time hurdle for him to try to become that starting caliber right tackle for them. Beyond that, though, they have some insurance behind him. So Juwan James, we all know well and good. He ends up getting cut from the Broncos. Had a little bit of a situation with Denver Broncos, owing him money and that sort of thing. Became a big, huge deal. They end up letting him go, and he signs with the Ravens. So if everything can get resolved relatively quickly and he'll be healthy enough to play, because that's the other thing, is he's still not 100% yet. If he can get healthy maybe midweek or mid-month through August, maybe he can make an impact and learn the playbook enough to get him possibly in that contention for that right tackle spot, and deservedly so.
Absolutely. I got one more question for them, too, as well. Now, for me, it's can they make it past the division championship? Because if you look at here, when 2018, they get Lamar Jackson, miraculously enough, they get right there to the wild card, and they lose in the wild card, but then they learn from that and go into the divisional championships the past 2 years right in a row, 2019, 2020, and they both come up with losses in those. So one more hurdle at a time, keep getting there. They've had to run into teams like the Chiefs and now the Bills, things like that. Always something getting in the way. So now I think the one question that people are going to start be asking about these guys is, you're there.
Can
maybe
they get
the
farther?
Chiefs are vulnerable. Can you get there, and can you make it over here? Because so many other great teams in this conference. You've got the Bills up and coming, and even the Bengals in the same division. The Bengals are actually looking good too. The Browns, they were looking good. The Steelers are still hanging around. The Chiefs always can't knock them out. So many good teams in the NFC right now, but the Baltimore Ravens have been there just about in every season and just can't get over that hump.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's hard to predict, because you also got to think about, like, now you got to project. Before we even start the season, now we're trying to project, who's going to be there. Listen, there's no landslide, lock it down that they're going to be in there. This is a very competitive division now. So, first of all, they got to be able to maybe make a wild card. If they can't win the division, they got to have a good enough record to get that wild card. And this is, I'm sorry, like top to bottom, this is one of the tougher divisions to compete in right now. Every team so far, they've done their due diligence and getting ready for the upcoming season. And, that's the thing, is it's hard to try to even ask that now. I know it's a good question. Can they? Sure. They have the team to do it right now. And now you can't point any fingers and say, okay, Lamar, you didn't have enough weapons, so maybe that's why we couldn't put up enough points. Or, okay, we were injured with riddled with injuries in the defensive side of the ball. Our defense couldn't show up for us. Now it's like, okay, you're getting everybody back again. Listen, defensively, they're pretty darn solid. They're one of the better defenses in this league that nobody's really given them a huge amount of clout about. And yeah, you might point at like their younger linebackers, but man, have they balled out last year. They got injured, don't get me wrong, but when they were healthy, this defense was almost second to none. They were pretty darn good. And now they've made a couple of adjustments, a couple of upgrades. Watch out for them. The one player in particular on the defensive side of the ball is Justin Medebuike. He's a guy that's been exactly. I got a little carried away with that last name, but Medebuike, that's how you say it.
There you go.
But him getting drafted I think is going to be a bigger deal going down the stretch. Kid, drafted in 2020. I think he's going to make an impact this year, and a D tackle that can do everything well. So, yes, defensively, I think they're going to be solid. They're going to be good offensively. Now you can't really point fingers and say, well, you didn't have enough. Didn't have a good enough offensive line. You didn't have any weapons to throw to. You were a one-trick pony in terms of running the ball too much. Now you have no excuses. So do I think this team right now on paper? Yeah, sure. I think they could go deeper than that. Sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so there you go. There's the AFC's South's biggest questions here for the Baltimore Ravens. That's right, or South, AFC North. We're covering the AFC North here, and next we're going to move up to the Cincinnati Bengals are next here. Cincinnati Bengals. So, Joe, for the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm going to say now is take a look at what they've done here. They drafted Jamar Chase here. They've got Tyler Boyd there still. T. Higgins looked good last season. And Auden Tate, a lot of people forget about this guy here for this team as well, too.
Right.
Now, taking a look at this receiving core now, are they possibly the best receiving core in this division now?
I mean, it's an interesting question for one, and another thing is you can debate this. I mean, a lot of people are going to probably throw this question out the window and say, no way, Bengals, no way. And everyone's going to kind of point to the Cleveland Browns. Everyone's going to point to the Steelers right now. Well, Steelers got Juju, and they got, Claypool, Chase Claypool. Those two guys are – but it's all about the receiving core, too. You got to be deep. You can't just have two guys that are really good and then the rest of the guys are like, kind of average or below average. So, and that's how I kind of see this team right now is the Cincinnati Bengals have kind of slowly built a really, young and dangerous receiving core right now. T. Higgins, who I didn't think – I'm going to be honest. I didn't think this guy was going to come in his rookie season and do what he did. Very productive. Superseded all expectations. And then on top of that, Tyler Boyd, I'm sorry, Tyler Boyd does not get enough credit as a Cincinnati Bengal. He's a really, really good receiver and gets overlooked a lot of times, but no more. You gotta be aware of Tyler Boyd when he's on the football field. He's a really good receiver. Jamar Chase, you're going to say, yeah, he's not proven. You're right. Jamar Chase is not proven yet. But I'm telling you right now that this kid is in the mold of don't get carried away with this statement, but he's in the mold of a receiver. When you look at Julio Jones, Jamar Chase is kind of like that. He's physical, he's fast, he's got phenomenal hands, and I feel like he's going to develop to be one of those great receivers in this league. And yeah, I understand that's potential-wise, but when you look at this team and how deep they are, Auden Tate, I'm sorry, this dude needs to start somewhere. He's unfortunately with the receivers that they have, he's not going to start on this team, but he's a starting caliber receiver that just doesn't get enough opportunity. So that being said, they are 4 deep with really good receivers. And then you bring up a team like the Steelers and say, well, they got Juju and they got Chase Claypool. But beyond that, they got James Washington, which I'm sorry is not that spectacular to me. He's made his fair chance drops. Same thing with Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson has had a few highlights and has looked very good.
Yeah,
but then there's
especially
also
right now they're saying in camp he's doing better. But yeah, that's what they always do.
But then when it comes to game time, he's had his fair share of drops as well and has made some mistakes. So if you're talking about that team right now, to me they're only 2 deep. They only got 2 legitimate receivers that are really good, and that's it. And then you look at the Ravens. Ravens got a lot of youth, a lot of guys that aren't proven yet, besides Hollywood Brown. But again, another guy who gets
Watkins,
injured.
Though, has been there, done that too.
Yeah,
So I mean, that's a really good receiving core now too.
But also, Hollywood Brown is often injured. So if you're not on the football field, you can't really help your team. And the same thing could be said for Sammy Watkins, another guy who's riddled with injuries his whole career. So with that being said, to me, you can definitely make an argument that the Bengals might exactly have that, the best receiving core in this division.
Yeah, potentially. All right. So what do you got for the next question?
So for the next one, we got here's an interesting one, guys. Can the Bengals defense become a top 15 defense in this league for this upcoming season? And just to give you guys a little bit of perspective, last year the overall defense ranked 23rd in the league. Okay, and you're like, wait a second. How do you expect them to jump from 23 to the top 15 spot, if you will, or what have you? Well, they did a lot of upgrades this offseason. And some people aren't aware of how good they've become. Listen, DJ Reader sat out last year. One of the best D tackles in football. Sat out upon signing a new deal with Cincinnati, leaving the Texans. You have Larry Ogunjobi, who has played really, really well for the Cleveland Browns. Now he's with the what am I talking about? Now he's with the Bengals. Sorry about that. And then the draft pick that they picked up this year is Joseph Osai, who's an outside 3-4 type of linebacker who can rush off the edge and does that very well. So he's going to develop and come into his own. Also, Sam Hubbard at the end, and one of the biggest signings who I think this season as a defensive lineman is Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson from the Saints, one of the best D ends. I'm telling you right now, this kid can flat out play. He's great against the run, gets double-digit sacks last year as a starter, was truly amazing last season, and he looks to build upon that with the Bengals. So you're looking at the D-line right now and thinking, they're going to be pretty impressive, I feel like. And then beyond that, you look at their linebacking core, and some of the guys you might not be accustomed to or familiar with is Akeem Davis-Gaither. Really good linebacker. Kind of is under wraps, underrated. Logan Wilson still developing into his position and everything, but he's another young talent that they have. Darius Phillips at corner, really good corner there. Von Bell comes over from the Saints as well to help build this safety department here to give them help. Jesse Bates, I mean, one of the really good safeties in this league, still there with the Bengals. And here's where it gets a little interesting, right, is the cornerback positions. Is you got a guy by the name of Trey Waynes. A lot of you remember Trey Waynes from the Minnesota Vikings, the guy who's been up and down his career, hasn't really flourished. But I feel like this defense fits him extremely well. And I feel like they're going to allow him to be more physical, to be that guy that's going to come up and play the run a lot more often, a guy that's going to get his hands on receivers a little bit, be more physical. And not to mention Chidobe Awuzie coming from the Cowboys, who's been heavily criticized. I know he's been heavily criticized being one of the worst because of the Cowboys D, but I still believe that this kid has something to develop, something to prove. And I feel like that this defense could go with these upgrades, with these additions. They could easily go from 23rd to 15th.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but crack the top 15 definitely, and that's something to strive for. And then after that, again, you reset your goals and see what you guys can do. They definitely needed improvement throughout the season. And I think on this offensive side, I think the team would like to see improvement as well. Zach Taylor brought in there as a Sean McVay type of protege, type of guy in there, get this offense going. They've been sputtering since. I mean, yes, they've been hit with injuries here and there. Joe Burrow, again, their guy of the future. He got to play only 10 games last year, but he was sacked 32 times within those 10 games. He was on pace to beat anything that Russell Wilson has been dealing with there too, who gets roughly 40-plus.
And we all know how that
every
situation
season
was going.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I mean. Talk about there. And then rankings, too, overall last year. 29th overall in offense, and then also 29th in the scoring percentage. And that's the thing, too. When you get down into the red zone, are you able to score? And you're not. And instead, it was turnovers. They led in turnovers, too, as well, one of the leading teams there. So trying to nip that in the bud, the increase in protection here on the offensive line. You have the weapons now and a receiver he already has a relationship with, so chemistry's there. And then also another year with T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. It just seems like that's going to be better for them moving forward, and they need to move forward with that and get this offense going because already you're hearing some people saying about, Zach Taylor potentially in a hot seat.
Right.
I think it's a little early too as well to try and move forward with that. I mean, again, you got to be able to give him that year with even his franchise quarterback here, and you don't want to hit the reset button too early on your new, fresh, young quarterback as well either. So let's let it roll. Let's see how they go here. And it is a tough division to deal with here.
Right.
And this is what you're seeing a lot in the NFL now. You're getting a lot of these divisions, whether they're even, say, a bad division or really up and better, they're all tight right now.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, too, is you talk about continuity. With a young quarterback like that, you don't want to just pull the plug right now from your coaching staff and say, we're going to hire a new coaching staff. You're going to have to learn a new offense, new everything. I think Zach Taylor fits extremely well with his offensive philosophies, with Joe Burrow's, able to be amazing his rookie year and coming in. Hopefully he's 100% healthy and ready to go. It sounds like he is. But I feel like it's a match made in heaven here. Why would you want to break that up? And so early, it just doesn't really make any sense. So I totally disagree with the whole hot seat, hot take type of talk that's going on. And I think if they stick with the plan, like, hey, I mean, they could surprise a lot of people this year with the team that they've managed to put together. It looks really good. Hey, listen, another struggle for them was offensive line. They were missing their left tackle in Jonah Williams, who never even got to play his rookie year. So, in a sense, this will be his rookie year. He's going to be healthy, and they've made some upgrades along the way. So, looks like a lot more solid team all around, offense and defensively. Let's see what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's going to move us on to the next team. It's the Cleveland Browns here. The Cleveland Browns, a team again that we've been talking about. Everybody along the NFL about maybe this is their time. It's up and coming. They have so many stars and weapons right there. Even without Odell Beckham Jr. There for most of the time last season, looked really good. They got their young guys. Another Higgins there. Looking really well for that team.
Rashard Higgins.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. Yep. And then the two running tandems right here. Nick Chubb doesn't get enough type of credit. He's one of those silent type of running backs here. Just is a workhorse. Gets it done here.
He's one of the best.
Not a lot of people bringing him up out there. Not flashy. Doesn't jaw. Doesn't talk much. Just gets it done. Runs well, almost like Barry Sanders in a way, like kind of run, get it done, and hand the ball right back over to the ref and get going. Let's just go,
Yeah.
And then you've got Kareem Hunt on the other side here, smashing the ball.
Amazing.
And the talk about them last year was too with Baker Mayfield. How was he going to do? Kevin Stefanski. We talked about the last about the training camps when he started going off. They started off really bad, poorly. Couldn't get weapons, the ball to the weapons. A lot of mistakes here in the offseason in training camps. Within the season, as it started to gear up and go, they got better, fixed some of those mistakes, and then played well and made it through the playoffs again. And we're able to defeat the Pittsburgh Steelers that have been that team that has been on their shoulders, on their back the whole time here in this division. Able to do that and get a playoff win in years, all without Odell. To where you asked the question, too, is like, do they need to – I mean, that could even be one of the biggest questions. I'll just ask it right now then.
There you go.
And should they even look into trading Odell Beckham Jr.? I mean, because, again, they did it without him. You know what I mean? If you don't really, you can do it without him. How much do you really need him so much? And then how many other teams could use him? So what kind of type of picks or whatever compensation would you get for an Odell Beckham Jr. here?
That's the thing too. Is like, listen, what they did without a key guy like Odell Beckham Jr. Don't get me wrong. He is definitely one of the best receivers in the league, hands down. I mean, the guy's one of the best route runners in football. Has one of the best pairs of hands you can ask for. The one big thing for him was his off-field issues, his on-field issues. A lot of baggage came with him since he left the Giants. And then he just had his major injury. But this showed Cleveland, like, hey, listen, maybe we don't even really need Odell, because if you think about the team where they were when they traded for him, they really did need him when they traded for him, because they really didn't have anybody but Jarvis Landry, who was making a big impact. You know what I mean? Now they bring in Odell. Things are looking good, gets injured, what have you. But look at what they've managed to accomplish since he left. If you remember when Odell first got there, the offense was spitting and sputtering, trying to get points on the board and everything. And it was mostly because Odell was in the ear of Baker Mayfield saying, just throw me the ball. I'm always open. Throw me the ball. Throw me the ball. And Baker was ignoring the fact that he had other receivers open, but still was forcing the ball to Odell. That hurt the offense. Now, then when Odell left, it seemed like Baker kind of like magically opened his eyes and was like, oh, well, I don't have to throw it to this guy. You know what I mean? Now I can just distribute the ball how I feel. He threw it to Landry. He spread the ball around with Rashard Higgins, which kind of made his name. Played really well. And then their draft pick from 2020, Donovan Peoples-Jones, he came on late into the season, and he became a person that was involved in the offense as well. Fast forward to this year in this draft, they drafted another receiver a little bit later in the middle rounds in Anthony Schwartz, coming from Auburn, a kid that has blazing speed, has great route running ability, and has good hands. This is another kind of underrated kid who I feel who could literally start for this team. But we will see what he can do with his rookie season. So just with the fact of how deep their receivers are right now and the potential that Anthony Schwartz holds, I feel like they could move on from Odell this year, get a lot in compensation. And here's the other thing, too, is compensation. Like, how much can you expect for a guy like Odell? Well, I think you can expect at least a first-round pick, okay, to start the conversation. I don't think you're going to get as much as what the Giants got for him because you got to also keep in mind he's been often injured as well. He hasn't really been on the football field that much throughout his career. So that is going to hinder what you possibly could have gotten if he was healthy all the time. So do I think that question right there, I think Cleveland should move on from Odell. I don't think they need him. They're a better team without him. I know it sounds kind of crazy for maybe a lot of Browns fans out there, but I do believe that the Browns as a team right now is capable and ready to win, and they could easily do it without Odell. I think they got enough ammunition.
Yeah, I mean, but I think other Cleveland fans or other people could even argue the fact, well, they made it to the divisional championship, but then they end up losing their, divisional round and lost there too. But I mean, they did run into and had to play the Chiefs, though, the defending champions.
Right
now, they lost in the Super
and they
Bowl
were competitive against them, though.
Yeah,
I mean that was a really good playoff game. Like I'm sorry, like you could see if they can compete with the Chiefs, the former Super Bowl champions, and they were able to hang with them. That just goes to show you how close they actually are to winning. So
right, absolutely. So then that brings up the question here now: is Baker Mayfield the franchise quarterback that they've been searching for here? So I mean, that is the major question that is
always
blowing everybody's
right now, right?
mind. Yeah, absolutely. So
yeah, I mean, for Baker Mayfield. And that's the thing too, is a lot of people kind of get held up and they think that you need this like ultra elite quarterback in order to win games or to make a Super Bowl, to win a championship. But we've seen through the course of history in the NFL, you don't need an elite quarterback. You just need a really good team. And isn't that what this game is about, is having a really good team? Look at what you can say here, look at the Chiefs right now. Okay? Look at the Chiefs. Perfect example. Look at Tampa Bay even. And now I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, they have Tom Brady. Yeah, okay, fine. But the Chiefs had Patrick Mahomes, and they had a solid team. They improved their defense to where it wasn't one of the bottom feeders in the NFL. They made them a pretty good team, top 15 defense, maybe even cracked the top 10 at times. And opposite that, they drafted their quarterback in Patrick Mahomes, who kind of flourished and had tremendous weapons. One of the best weapons that a quarterback could ask for. Really good, solid offensive line play and a good running back behind him. That's what you need. You need a team to carry you into the playoffs, to win a Super Bowl. So people need to stop thinking that, well, we need Aaron Rodgers. We need this guy. We need that guy. We need Deshaun Watson to win a chip, or we need this. It's not just the quarterback. I get it. Quarterback is the most important position in football, hands down. But it is a team game in the end. So for Baker Mayfield, for this Cleveland Browns team, listen, we've seen what they could do with him, right? He's not the worst quarterback out there. He's not the best quarterback out there. But he's a quarterback that can run your offense and not kill you down the stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. And there you go. Take a look at his career stats here so far. He's got a 62% completion percentage, over 11,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, 43 INTs, and where it brings them up to a rate of 89.1. So that's where I think some of people are asking the questions here. Some of the bonehead mistakes that he had made during that time with Freddie Kitchens when he took over as the head coach here for them. Right. Having a good relationship after the first season together. But, again, now moving into this Kevin Stefanski period, working more off of the run with the play action, it's been beneficial for him here, getting better looks and getting to those weapons that he does have. Because that's the thing, too. You had all these weapons. It seemed like you weren't able to utilize them. You were sitting there running the ball with the 2 weapons you had back there, but you had Odell sitting back there and Jarvis Landry and things like that, and people were waiting to see that potential. Is Baker Mayfield the heir apparent, the guy that's going to be able to bring this team from the depths? And that's the problem with this franchise, and why they ask this type of question here is because they've seen how many quarterbacks they have drafted throughout the years, decades of quarterbacks here since Tim Couch and all those other guys.
Yeah,
looking for a guy just to stick around, and that's the thing that, like you said about not even got to be the Aaron Rodgers. I think people need to stifle their expectations of some of these guys. Baker Mayfield definitely has the tools enough to get it done and be your quarterback and not make some of the mistakes that are going to kill your team. Just give him the ability to do it and be able to work with the team and get chemistry with everybody and become a full team. Like you said, get everybody working on all phases. The defense is working really great right now. And like you said, even they got Newsome here on the defensive side too as well. I mean, so they're just adding parts nonstop to this team. And don't forget about Jadeveon Clowney also added to this team, just another extra piece for them. But altogether, again, the Browns are a team built to win, but they want to be able to be a team that is a franchise, a historic franchise, known for champions back in the AFL.
Right.
Built to last, not just to be here. We tried, reset again. We're still looking for our Cinderella or princess or man in shining armor here, or whatever, waiting for him to come on his shiny horse and ride us off to the promised land. Yeah. They want to get the franchise back to where it used to be, its former glory, and be consistent. That's what I think is most important for these teams and quarterbacks in this day and age. They need to rely on more of that here for them. But Baker Mayfield, I think absolutely he is the guy that can be able to lead them. And being on a contract year, this is the year, too. He needs to improve it more than ever.
Absolutely. It's 100% a prove-it year. It's to prove to the organization, to the fans that, listen, I can handle this. I can be your guy going forward. Here's the little bit of what's going to be a hard pill to swallow for the organization is because the way the contracts are going for quarterbacks, being up in that $40+ million bracket a year, that's going to be the sticking point, I feel like, is how much is Baker Mayfield and his agent going to be asking for? Because here's the thing, and this is what the organization can do as well, is listen, this is what you did for us. This is what your stats are compared to all these elite quarterbacks. You're not up there. So we're going to offer you a fair deal. Maybe we'll offer you $30 million or something like that, or 27 or 28 or whatever. And if they come to an agreement like that, I feel like it's a landslide. It's a slam dunk. They can easily, justify that kind of a contract for Baker Mayfield, giving him a big raise, keeping him satisfied, but not paying ultra money down the stretch. So I feel like that's going to be something that's going to be a big deal. Another question for the Browns that I got is, do the Browns have a weakness? And what I mean by that is, like, when you look at their roster up and down, offensively, defensively, and after the upgrades that they've made, I mean, you got to think about this. Odell returns. As long as he's there on the roster, he's still there as of right now, hasn't been traded yet. But you got guys like Odell, Jarvis Landry as a receiving core, Rashard Higgins, who really made a name for himself last year, played really well for them. And just like we talked a little bit about, Peoples-Jones and Anthony Schwartz, offensive line is pretty darn solid. There's not a whole lot to not like here. Jedrick Wills played tremendously his rookie year. Really lit it up as their left tackle there. Austin Hooper at tight end kind of exploded, not in the beginning of the year, but late as they got more comfortable, him and Baker. He kind of lit the league on fire, like as they got down to the end of the season. Another tight end to watch out for is Harrison Bryant. Very underrated guy at tight end, and now that they have Bryant and he's shown a little bit of glimpses of what he can do, but now you team both of those tight ends out there, maybe do double tight end sets. That could be dangerous with these receiving core. You already talked about the running backs and how dangerous they both are. Tremendous. You got Kareem Hunt, bull in the china closet. You got Nick Chubb, a guy that just handles business. And then you go and look at this defense. Everybody knows Myles Garrett, okay? Hands down one of the best pass rushers. But then you go beyond that, and you start looking. They did bring in Jadeveon Clowney, finally found a team, finally agreed on a deal. Do I think he's going to be amazing for the Browns? No, because, listen, the guy hasn't had 0 sacks last year. So if he's not being productive in terms of producing sacks, he's not a pass rusher. Basically, they got themselves a glorified run stopper, a guy who does create some pressure, but does a great job of stopping the run. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe it works out for them there. And beyond that, they got a lot of young guys. And one particular free agent they signed from the Colts, mind you, was Anthony Walker, their middle linebacker. I could not believe that they were able to get him, but they add him to this, and that was a big hole that they needed to fill. So they bring in Anthony Walker. They got Sione Takitaki, who's another underrated linebacker, plays extremely well. Jacob Phillips, another young kid that they drafted in 2020, showed some flashes last year. And then you get to the secondary, right? And this is another question that I had is, do the Browns have the best secondary in this division? And you could argue this because I know some of you are going to be like, well, they drafted Greg Newsome. He's penciled in as a starter, and we don't really know how good he's going to be. You're right. We don't know for sure. But if there's any indication of his college tape and what he's able to do, being a first-round pick, I think the Browns really believe in this kid. This kid's going to come in there and make some plays. And if you don't remember, they still do have Greedy Williams, another corner that played extremely well, but then got hurt down the stretch last season, didn't play a whole lot. And they brought in a nickel corner by Troy Hill from the Rams, one of the best nickel corners in the league. John Johnson III, also from the Rams, one of the best safeties in this league. This team looks pretty dangerous. And then, don't forget, they drafted a first-round talent safety a couple years ago. Grant Delpit didn't even get to play last season. He was out. He's returning. So you could argue that this secondary could end up being the best secondary this upcoming season.
Yeah, or in the division at least. And when you talk about weaknesses, it's not exactly a weakness, but one spot I would say that they need to improve from last year on defense and on offense on fourth down conversions. They allowed opponents to convert 81% of their fourth downs. And last year they faced fourth down so many times here when weren't able to convert on offense 24 times and only able to convert 8 times. So it was only like a 30%. They were almost dead last in the league here, second from last. So one thing they need to improve on this year, especially with weapons like that, you need to be able not even to face fourth down so much here and get scoring before that.
Right.
But I would say they don't have a problem scoring because when they get in the red zone too, it's lights out and they get on it and they're scoring 75% to 80% of the time.
I'm going to tell you right now, all those stats from last year, throw them right out the window because they're exactly that. They're last year stats.
Right, and that's why they say this is where we need to improve on.
Right.
That's what they do when they look at video and stuff like this, and they're looking at this is something we need to face.
But that's what we're getting to right here is you look at all the upgrades that they made, all the changes they made. And going back to last year with those stats too, another thing that didn't bode well against them is, they didn't have all these weapons that they got now. You know what I mean?
They have most of them. Those weapons, they pretty much do have all those guys.
They
had most of those guys last year.
But they didn't have Odell. You know what I mean?
Oh,
that's a big weapon.
Thing,
They didn't have Harrison Bryant wasn't even available when they were playing. From time he was injured as well. Austin Hooper hurt half the year pretty much. Until he came back into the latter part of the year. So, I mean, they were missing guys from here and there, and their defense wasn't even that good. They were good
last year.
But they didn't have all their holes filled. Now what they do, you fast forward now. Also, just to mention, is they also picked up Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, supposed to be a first-round pick. He's going to be also on this defense. It's absolutely insane. The potential that this defense has and this offense has, it's truly amazing. I think they could definitely easily take the next biggest step according to those stats and what they had last year.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like I said, if they did have anything, one little thing they needed to improve on, and like I said, when the coaching staff gets in there to look at film and things like that and say, this is where we didn't do so well, this is where we need to improve on. And young guys, this is what you're expected to be doing. So that's how you handle it. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's move on next to the final team in this division, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, the Steelers started off red hot last season, and then just started problems. I think they ran into, Washington football team might have been the first team to knock them from the undefeated ranks, and then it started kind of being like a waterfall of everything, everybody going through, and getting their turn kind of on the Steelers. And what you saw out of them last year, especially from the beginning, because, I am a Giants fan. I got to see them play them early, and the Giants were even in that game against them as well. And a lot of teams were. I think they were just able to do enough to get it done. They played really sloppy and was able to get it enough done to get those wins. They were really close ones. But when it came down to teams that really were good and had a better defense and that could overcome some of those mistakes there, they had problems. They had problems with teams like that. And that's why when they ran into the Washington football team, ended up being a buzzsaw for them. And Chase Young was in the backfield and disrupting Ben Roethlisberger, and he's not as mobile and can take his hits as much as he used to be able to too. And now here's a different season to where they need to try and change some of that to where now Ben Roethlisberger, we're hearing now, has been on a strict diet now. He's trying to cut weight down. It's more strict than Tom Brady's type of diet. I
Avocado
don't even
ice cream.
imagine even anything like that. So maybe it's coconut milk ice cream. I don't know what it is. But Ben Roethlisberger, one of the questions is maybe for this one too, before we get into one of the other ones, is maybe is this finally Ben Roethlisberger's last
Yeah,
year?
right.
I mean, this is his last hurrah because it seems like with this team, they've tried to retool and keep the guys together enough to keep moving forward and add piece by piece to keep the pushing to get that. But right now, with the teams that are underneath them, Bengals getting better. The Ravens are always right there, making it further than the Steelers in the playoffs.
Yep.
And now the Browns there with their first playoff win against the Steelers in a long time. They've got these people nipping on their heels. Their time is running out. They've been kind to Ben Roethlisberger, said, here, you can leave kind of whenever you want. The rest of the league has kind of been like, dude, you got to go. So is this even Ben Roethlisberger's final last hurrah here? You think it had to be.
And that's the thing, too, is he's been up and down every year. Like the last 2 to 3 years, this guy has been so indecisive that he just wasn't sure at the end of every single season for the last couple of years that, do I want to come back? I don't know. I might think about retiring, guys. Let me talk to the wife and the kids and all this and do this runaround. Kind of like what Drew Brees has been doing.
Yeah,
the
I'm
last couple of
enjoying
years.
hunting and fishing and everything.
You know what I mean?
Just
Like
growing a beard out.
enjoying
Yeah.
himself and everything. So, again, now we're at this point where, okay, he's made a decision yet again to return. It sounds like this is going to be his last year because also he's got a big contract. You know what I mean? And the Steelers, you know, they're trying to work with him on getting him situated and giving him some kind of an extension. But even then, is it going to be enough for it to keep him? You know, because this is a very, you know, emotional type of game, physical type of game, and maybe it's beating it out of him enough to he's going to get to the point where maybe at the end of the season say, you know what, I'm good, I'm done. I can finally honestly say that I'm comfortable. I'm going to retire, and I'm all set. And if that happens, then, only then, we're going to find out a lot of interesting things. Is like who's going to be the next quarterback? You know what I mean? You think that they did go ahead and they signed Dwayne Haskins kind of as an insurance policy, I guess.
Yeah.
And hopefully they can maybe they can do something different. Maybe Dwayne Haskins fits their offense a little better. Don't have to ask a whole lot out of him, and maybe they do a better job of developing him. Who knows? But we'll wait and see. Hey, maybe preseason games are going to be coming up, you know, in mid-August, maybe even second week in August. We're going to see Dwayne Haskins. Maybe he plays pretty well for them. Who knows? But Big Ben, I mean, I hate to be like the you know, kind of the Debbie Downer for the Steeler fans, but how could you not expect maybe this could be a season, the end of it? You know, Big Ben could call it quits after this year. I kind of expect it to happen because if you're a quarterback, a player in the NFL, and you've been debating this for the last 2 to 3 years, eventually you're just going to come to the resolve and just say, all right, now I'm just done. I'm done. You're thinking about it that long. At some point, you pull the trigger. I think it might be at the end of this year.
Right. And it seems definitely different from a lot of players when they're on their hurrah, like you saw when Jerome Bettis was with the Steelers, and like it seemed like the team wanted to get behind him and get him that chip to finish it off. Doesn't seem that way with Ben Roethlisberger here. Everybody's kind of like, is he really kind of going?
They don't know.
I think what the problem is, though, too, is because they've drafted quarterbacks. You had Mason Rudolph there. You had Joshua Dobbs. You got to see what you had out of those guys, and it's not enough to convince you that those were the guys. So I think that's why they're in the position they were here, and that's why they go and get Dwayne Haskins, who was kind of banished from the Washington football team too after the fallout here with Ron Rivera. Just needed to find a new atmosphere, a new home here, and hopefully they got a good deal out of that, and maybe that could potentially be their guy. If not, they got to start looking here. But again, Roethlisberger, he's worn out his welcome, I think, a little too long. And now we'll see what happens with this. We know a slimmer, if we do see it, Ben Roethlisberger. We'll see what happens.
That'll be
here
interesting,
with
right?
this. Yeah, it would be
I
different.
mean, I don't
I'm
think
interested to see how much it is. I mean, maybe
yeah,
I'm not
right?
expecting like a whole lot. You know what I mean?
I'm
But-
hoping this is
but
what you can
that would
hope
be
for.
interesting.
Is maybe he gets down to his when he came out of college. You know what I mean? Maybe he can get down to that kind of weight. I don't even remember what that was, but I know he wasn't as big as he is now. You know what I mean? So maybe he can get back to his college playing weight. Be out there, a new younger stud. We'll see.
Yeah. It's like he used to yell for the meatloaf all the time. Now he can't even eat that anymore.
No, stay away from it.
All right, so yeah, and we talked about Alejandro Villanueva here with the Baltimore Ravens here,
Right.
now moving on and switching up teams.
Yeah.
And now there's a gap there. Now you have to fill out for these guys. So
Big
now,
gap.
yeah,
Big
when you
gap.
look at Chukwuemeka Okafor, what is it?
Chukwuma.
Okorafor, right?
Chukwuma.
Okorafor, right?
Okorafor.
Yeah, there you go. Now he's got a lot of big shoes to fill in here on this side
Sure
now.
does.
What can we expect of him? Is he going to be able to live up to those expectations to hold that left tackle position here for them to protect Ben Roethlisberger?
And that is probably the biggest question of this team. I mean, because honestly, and it doesn't even end there, too. I mean, you look at the left guard now and Kevin Dotson. He's only been had experience for 2 years now at left guard. So both those guys were kind of like developmental players when the Steelers got them, and they're hoping that they are going to rise to the occasion this year and be those stone concrete wall there for Big Ben. But I'm sorry, man. I don't think those expectations are going to get met. I really don't. I mean, you look at Chukwuma and what he's been able to do and develop as a player from 2018 draft. He's a guy that, he's a really big body. He's a guy that, he's athletic and all that, but he struggled at times with guys that were speed rushers, guys that would overpower him. He would get off balance sometimes. And the same thing for Dotson. I feel like Dotson is a little closer to being more solid than Chukwuma is, but again, I think that left side of the offensive line is going to struggle this year. And I think when defenses look at what little bit of film that they gather early on in the season, they're going to start trying to attack that side more often, because that I feel like is going to be their biggest weakness on this offense. And if they don't get it shored up, if they don't get it give Chukwuma or Dotson more help, whether it be like a tight end lining about out there or something like that to help with the pass protection, I don't know. I think they could have a long season as an offensive line. So I love the rest of the guys that they have on there. Their center is pretty solid. Trey Turner they bring in at right guard, Pro Bowl type of player who I think is going to be solid for them. No worries. And Zach Banner I think does an adequate job for them at right tackle. So really what it is weakness at the left side. I don't know if they can live up to the expectations. I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're going to be okay, but they're definitely going to struggle throughout the season.
Congratulations. You played yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, though, because we were watching the draft, and when it came down to, like, everybody was saying it needs, are they going to go offensive line and things like that? And when they go with Najee Harris, yes, that sounds great and all, but for me, I mean, again, I don't think running back was the answer for them. I think they really needed to attack the offensive line, trying to fix that, protect your aged quarterback here who is injury prone, where behind him, who did you have? You got to hope that's got to be Dwayne Haskins, because you've seen Mason Rudolph before. You've seen Hodges. They can't do it. So, maybe you see Dwayne Haskins move up for them. So, and that's going to be your whole season, basically. And it's got to be.
I'm going to tell you, too, this draft, I thought for sure they're going to take Tevin Jenkins from Oklahoma State. I mean, I just thought that he fit the mold of a Steeler offensive lineman. You know what I mean? Tenacious, angry all the time, very rough, powerful dude. And I thought that was going to be the pick. I honestly thought that was the way to go for them. And don't get me wrong, I'm not blaming them at all for the Najee Harris pick. Listen, they needed a feature back, and that's what they believed in. So they grabbed Najee Harris. Okay, that's well good, but you passed up on an offensive lineman to help protect your quarterback who's still playing for you. And even if Big Ben does move on after the season, say he retires, whoever's playing quarterback, you need to protect him. And why not invest in that future now rather than wait and roll the dice and hope that these guys pan out for you on the left side.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you're looking at the teams that are in your division that you're going to play twice a year. Again, we've seen Mason Rudolph and Myles Garrett go at it. He knows what that's about. I mean, we've seen that before.
Right.
And now you got Davion Clowney, too, on that whole side. I think that's only going to add a little more opportunity for him because if people are going to tee up on Myles Garrett, you're going to see more Jadeveon Clowney in the backfield trying to disrupt some plays here. So you have that. And then you have the Baltimore Ravens defense here as well.
Yep.
Like you said, the Bengals defense is getting better. So why wouldn't you have to play to the teams in your division? Build your team to the teams in the division. We've seen it. We talked about it with the NFC East before. Why are they getting some of the players that they have here? Because these guys run, or the Dallas Cowboys, they're built with Ezekiel Elliott there.
Right.
So they got to build these guys to stop the run. You got to do it that way because you got to make it out of there first. Like you said also when we talked about it, this AFC conference altogether, the conference, in trying to get to the playoffs with all these great teams that are in this conference, this is a tight division. So you need to be able to take the division. That's what you need to get. So you can get, you're not going to get a bye anymore. You just need to be able to get your ass in the window there in the door. Right. And then be able to get that wild card. That doesn't mean you're going to be able to get that right now. And especially now you're adding that extra game this season too. You're not going to be able to sit there at 500. It's going to be a cut and dry. You have a winning record or you have a losing record. And that might make the decision there to move forward in the playoffs, especially with some of these tighter teams and better teams in this AFC.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's the thing, too, is in this offensive line that you needed protection. Listen, we've seen more times than not teams find running backs a little bit later in the draft, and they end up becoming stellar players. You don't have to take that guy in the first round anymore. You can find a guy or two even a little bit mid to late rounds or even undrafted. We've seen undrafted free agents end up becoming starters. Look at Phillip Lindsay. Phillip Lindsay is an amazing running back. I mean, the Houston Texans have about 15 running backs at this point, including Lindsay. But besides the point, like there's guys that you can find that can fit not only your offense but also become those starters for you. And you don't have to invest that high capital, which is where I think we both agree, like, they should have definitely invested that first round pick on offensive tackle right there when they were there to be had, and kind of a little bit surprised that the Steelers didn't go that direction.
Yeah, and when you talk about it, I mean, a lot of we talked about it off the air, but again, the people are talking about the questions and the mistakes that maybe the Giants made when they drafted Saquon Barkley. And do you get a running back that early for them when Quentin Nelson was there? And then also when you look at it, that year, I proposed that the Giants trade down,
right,
and then they get Lamar Jackson and still might have enough space and time to get Nick Chubb before the Browns might have. Looking fast forward, that would have been freaking amazing, right? Because that's what you mean. You knew what you had of Nick Chubb. You're able to get the value there. Lamar Jackson, I knew at the time the Giants were struggling. So if you did not get that offensive lineman, he can make plays with his legs to get open and make it happen. So now you had both those guys.
Yep.
They could be in a whole different the franchise could be gearing in a different direction instead of asking yourself right now, again, on a contract year for Daniel Jones, just about, are you still the guy? You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's the problem these franchises face all the time. Steelers, they don't even have to face that question right now. Basically, it's a fight against time and old man time that's right there in the quarterback position, in the pocket. You got to hang on to it. Do they have enough to retool and make a run for the Super Bowl this year? I don't know so much. I think they have enough to try and take this division. But after that, especially what I saw a little bit last year, it's going to be a rough road for them.
And you talk about a rough road. I think it's going to be a rough road to even take the division.
Yeah,
you look at how competitive these other teams in this division have already gotten. I mean, look at the Ravens. They've always been that competitive, right? But they've managed to build, whenever they had a hole, they filled it. And they did it yet again this offseason. So, they traded away Orlando Brown, but they're going to be okay. You know what I mean? They brought someone else in. They got guys already in waiting for that position. They are going to be fine. You look at the Bengals, who I think made the biggest impact this offseason and adding players to fill holes and fill needs, and they're going to be super competitive. I'm telling you right now. Joe Burrow, we've seen what he could do in his rookie year, and I understand you're saying, okay, but his second year, let's really see what happens, because defenses are going to prepare a little bit better against a guy like Joe Burrow this year. That's fine. But now he's got more weapons. Now he's got a better offensive line. He has Joe Mixon behind him. Like, there's a lot to like about this and a better defense. And then you look at the Browns. Browns are going to be right in the mix, for this division. So I feel like the Bengals will too. As young as they are, I feel like the Browns, you can't not say that they're not going to compete for this division. And then the Bengals, I think, are going to be one of those sleepers in this division. So Steelers, they got a lot of work cut out for themselves. That's for sure. I think they got enough weapons, obviously, but this offensive line, I think, is where they're going to kind of struggle a little bit. And we all know how good their defense is. One of the best defenses in the NFL last couple of years running. So, and that's the other thing too, is like, will the Steelers offense or defense carry this team this season? And I know a lot of people are going to be quick to be like, oh, it's defense hands down. And you might be right. But this offense also got a little bit better too. I mean, you look at, you used to have just Eric Ebron at tight end. Now they go ahead and they draft this kid, Pat Freiermuth, from Penn State. This kid can come in and play right away. He's a good blocker and a receiving type of tight end. So now they could go back to that double tight end sets that they used to do, run off of it, throw off of it, be a little bit more deceptive that way. Najee Harris, he's going to get the ball, and you got Chase Claypool and Juju back for yet another year to air it out to. So, and that defense is tremendous. So, that being said, the offense, I think that they're going to be better than what they used to be in terms of playmaking ability. But the offensive line is such I feel like a weakness on the left side that the defense will yet again carry this team.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, a lot of the same guys return. We've talked about it time and time again. Minkah Fitzpatrick, great addition to this team. And that whole thing, back. Devin Bush looks great too as well. But, which will be the team. They need the offense to step up here, and they need Ben Roethlisberger to not make mistakes.
Sure.
We saw in that playoff game against the Cleveland Browns, Cleveland did do enough to win it, but they almost squandered the whole thing too as well. They started off strong just because of turnovers that Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers made. I mean, you remember it was a lot of batted balls here and Ben throwing picks, fumbles, automatically right there against the wall, right into the end zone. So it was easy scores right there. And then Pittsburgh started to get it back going and got back into that game and got a little rocky and scary for the Cleveland Browns there too. But again, overall, to combat all those and still pull through and get the victory for them. But that's the thing that this team needs to not do, the turnovers. And we've heard it over and time again about Ben Roethlisberger. I need to fix that. I need to not make mistakes. I suck doing that. Yeah, you can hear it, but you're a veteran here. You shouldn't be making those mistakes still. You shouldn't be trying to bring up all that stuff here. That's not a good message for your team moving forward or any young quarterback that you have there moving forward too as well. So Steelers, they can only go as far as I think their quarterback can take them. And right now, I think it's going to be a tough road for them. And so as far as the offense or defense, I think, like you said, defense, it's stronger. They're going to have to carry them. But the offense, again, they have the potential with who they have to get the points there. Problem is, I think they need to utilize some more of the shorter routes than the deeper routes that they were getting later on with Chase Claypool and things like that. I need to think that maybe Deontay Johnson here get some more shorter routes for them, get some things moving, so then that opens up for the deeper routes so they can get more scoring and that potential for them too as well. Because if you don't have time, because maybe there is a problem on that left side,
and it could be,
you got to be able to dish it off and get it there too. And now with having Najee Harris, hopefully that in the running game can get a little more than what they did last year, because last year still they were only averaging like 3.5 yards per carry there, and they didn't run as much.
Right.
So hopefully if they run a little bit more and become a little more balanced, that can only open up the passing game more for them as well.
And I think you'll see them return to that, because that used to be their bread and butter. They used to run the ball out quite often, and they used to do play action off of that. They used to mix it up from the fake running and being able to throw down the field. So you also too is when you look at this team going into this year, and just like Jim was mentioning before, is that this offense is the key, I guess you could say. They're the key this year to see how far they can go. We already know how good their defense is, but their offense has to really show up and show out. And just like you said, I think it really does teeter on that offensive line play.
And also the drop passes. As long as Deontay Johnson, we're here, and he looked better in camp so far.
That's great.
He had so many drop passes last year. They led the league in drop passes. So if some of those were caught, I've seen a bunch where they're right there at the end zone to score.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the difference between scoring and not.
But that's the thing, too, about Deontay is, like, he looks great in practice for sure. Yeah, that's all well and good. I want to see it on game day. That's when you need to see it. So
because that's when your head's not in the game.
right.
You might turn too early,
Can
and
he
that's when you
get
don't catch
in
it.
the game and be productive? That remains to be seen. Real quick, I do want to give a shout-out. There is a new Cleveland Browns group. So if you're a Browns fan and you want to head over to, they call themselves Brownstown, go over there and become a member of the Cleveland Browns group over there, Brownstown. If you're a Browns fan, go over to Brownstown.
So there you go. Check it out. Brownstown. You go join their group. If you want to talk all Cleveland Browns out there and joining in on a conversation, I'm sure they're talking about Nick Chubb and Baker Mayfield and things like that. Tons of debates on that. So definitely good to hear that. Joe, it's time to talk about some Rays energy. I am hyped up on the Rays energy right now. This has been my solid here, the sour gummy worms. I don't usually eat the gummy worms, but the solid gummy worms again.
All right.
I'm amped up. I like it. Tell us more about Rays.
Rays is amazing. I'm just going to say, I mean, here's the thing about this energy drink, and it's one of the few energy drinks out there that have not only electrolytes in it, which is a little bit different, but also, and everyone's got zero sugar. I mean, these got zero sugar too, amino acids and everything. But another thing that's interesting about Rays is that after you drink it, you do get that burst of energy that you need to either get through your day or get through work or just power through a workout. Whatever you're doing in your life, this will help you get through it. If you're feeling a little, a little lazy or lethargic, this will help you give that boost that you need to get through it all. And no crash. There's no crash after it. So when the energy does go away, I don't feel drowsy. I don't feel like I need to lay down and take a nap. I'm good to go. So Raise Energy, make sure you go to repsports.com, hit do the promo code that we have, Raise 'em Up. That's RAZEMUP, Raise 'em Up. Make sure you enter that. If you order anything off of this site at repsports.com, you'll get 15% off by using our promo code. So make sure you do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, hydration while energy at the same time. Join the Rays Rebellion. Absolutely. All right, that's it for us this week, Joe. I had a lot of fun talking about the AFC North here.
Yes,
Next
sir.
week, we're going to get into something else. Go back to the NFC.
Yeah, we're going to do NFC East maybe?
Yeah, NFC East. Let's get it. I mean,
do
Giants,
NFC East.
Cowboys, let's get it done. The Washington football team, I'm sure maybe we'll have John Turner in on that conversation as well.
Everybody tune in next week. I mean, we thank you guys for all the support, the people that have been filtering in and out of this channel. Really appreciate you. Listen, if you're new to our channel and you like what you see, you like what you hear, listen, we're an interactive show too. So don't be afraid to put down in the comments any questions, any comments, any opinions that you might have. You want to blow off some steam about your team or a player? Do so. We're here for you. So go over to YouTube. We're on YouTube, Football on the No Show. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and get some. Become a know-it-all. Also, we're on Facebook, as many of you have already checked in. Football on the No with Jim and Joe is our page. Football on the No Show, obviously, is our group. And we're also on Twitter. We like to tweet out different news articles that we get. Listen, if you always wanted to know who's the fastest guy, I mean, we've already had a couple of 40-time races from these players that have kind of gone really unnoticed. No one really is talking about it, but Aaron Jones raced Tyreek Hill in the offseason. There was a thing sponsored by Bounty where they had Henry Ruggs, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, and Mia Cole. Or no, not Tyreek Hill. He wasn't in. Mia Cole Hardman was in it, though. And that was cool to watch. If you guys want to check it out, go over and head over to our channel. We got it posted in our group and our Twitter page. Go ahead and take a look. So we do all kinds of fun stuff like that. At FB_no.
Yeah.
Get after it, baby.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday night for more Football on the No with Jim and Joe.